We want the truth, so watch Truth Wanted live Fridays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTW and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/calltw.
So you think that you can tell us how to live our lives, never questioning the source from which your moral code derives. You think that suffering is part of some great plan that's been devised. I wonder, what will it take for you to start opening your eyes? I wonder.
All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the Atheist Experience. Today is June 19th, 2022, and if you're in the US, that means it's Father's Day and Juneteenth. My name is Secularity Rarity, and today alongside me is the man who has been voted the #1 servant of Iblis more times than anybody else. It's Apostate Prophet. How are you, man?
Good. Thank you. How are you?
I am excited. You
Me
have a
too.
lot of really great content out there. And if anybody's unfamiliar, please go check it out. I've always wanted to know, where does the sun go at night? And you have helped me understand this. That was a metaphysical matter that I knew nothing about, and now my life is so much better. So
I'm very happy that you're picking up these little things here. But yes, so the sun definitely at night goes to a resting place and asks for Allah to rise again, and then it's given permission to rise, so it goes to a different place and rises again. That's what happens all the time.
And honestly, that's just courteous to me. I mean, if the sun were to rise without asking for Allah's permission, I just don't know that I'd enjoy the sun as much. So,
I agree completely. Oh, that's a very good point. That's a very, very good point.
well,
Based on kindness, yeah.
with that being said, everyone, the Atheist Experience is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 organization dedicated to the promotion of positive atheist culture and the separation of religion and government. It looks like we've got a couple of pretty interesting calls here. You want to just hop on into a call?
Absolutely. Are you
Let's-
giving me the control over that, or
If you've got it, you take it, man.
I don't know. I'll just go random now. So we have we have David, him from Canada, who wants to talk about the principle of causality. Hello, David. How are you doing?
Hey, nice to hear your voice. I can't see you, but nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So, what is it that you want to talk about?
Well, first of all, do you believe in the uncaused first cause? Have you understood that is necessary?
So, I mean, if you're going to this whole necessary contingent facts type argument, right? Which the principle of causality, I mean, I'll just be honest, is not something that I've spent a whole bunch of time in. But the idea of a necessary being, that there was something that started it all, I don't really find that to be super valuable when talking about God and stuff, because it just kind of seems like it's something that we can never really demonstrate, right? We do have some valid arguments.
We can
Well,
demonstrate it.
hang on, David. I was in the middle of a sentence, and it is terribly rude to cut people off. It's okay. But the point is that I don't know that we can ever get past the soundness aspect of that stuff, right? We can show that, logically speaking, sure, we can get some well-structured arguments, but when it comes to actually giving us a demonstration that we can point to, to show that it is true in reality, I don't know that it's terribly valuable. I know that there are a handful of people that like it, though. So,
Yeah, I would very much agree with parts of that, and also say, I mean, you could go and argue for you can argue that there is a necessary being from which all contingent beings come forth, or upon which they depend. But it takes a lot of speculation and discussion to go into what exactly that is. If there's just more than one, if there is if there is a line or a chain of such beings, and where it leads and all that, and it will all rely on further factors in order for you to point at a God who is that ultimate necessary being. It always depends on the person and what they want to argue, where they are going to go with this argument. But David, go ahead.
Yeah. So I want to use a reduction to absurdity proof. Basically, we'll assume that there's not an uncaused first cause, and the whole question of God and all his pure perfections, that's a stage 2. Okay, we won't even cover that today. But I just want to establish that we can know with certainty that there is one and only one uncaused first cause, and I'll use a reduction to absurdity proof to do that. So we'll assume there is no uncaused first cause, and you can interrupt me at any time. Okay.
Well, just real quick then, David, because to be honest, I think kind of one of the things that AP and I were just saying a second ago was that let's just give you the ball game, man. You won. There's an uncaused first cause. Let's go to the actually showing that it's a God and your specific one, because we have non-religious arguments that accept the idea of a necessary being, and it never takes us to God. And we have ones that are religious. It sounds like you have a religious one and you have a specific God. So let's just say, for the sake of the call, like AP and I accept it. There's a necessary being. There's an uncaused first cause. How do we get to God from there? I think that's what's interesting.
Yeah, let's grant that there is a necessary being, and then let's go from there.
Okay, great. That was easy. So
Yeah.
Is that necessary being, that uncaused first cause, is it natural or not? I'm asking you.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it natural?
I don't know.
Is it natural?
I don't know anything. I don't know anything that is not natural.
I don't even.
Are
I
you
don't even
assuming
think
it must be natural?
Doesn't make much sense.
I would just simply say we don't have a reason to accept anything other than the concept of natural things. Like, I don't know what non-natural things are. I don't know what supernatural things are.
You don't want me to prove. You don't want me to prove there's an uncaused first cause. You just want to grant it for the sake of argument. Okay.
Here's the thing, David.
First cause is natural or not? Huh?
David, here's the thing. You're asking us questions in order to find your way through
it's
this.
A reduction
I think the best.
It's a reduction to absurdity. I can do both cases.
That's not necessarily how the reduction to absurdity is necessarily formed. I mean, what we're doing is. What we are doing, I understand that. What we are doing here is we are granting that there might be a necessary being, depending on how you want to define it or find it. Now, please go ahead and make your argument and lay it out accordingly, instead of asking us questions and then shaping it.
Now that you've granted that there is a first cause, an uncaused first cause, I'm going to do a different reduction to absurdity. So let's say that you, for whatever reason, want to say that it might be natural. So let's consider that case, because there are only two cases. Either it's natural or not. The principle of the excluded middle tells us there's no third option. So it's either natural or not. So let's take the case where it's natural. If it's natural, then it is spatio-temporal, right?
Only if we're saying that the sum total of what we mean by natural necessarily implies space and time. And that may not be the case, right? It may be the case that there are other types of existences out there than the local presentation of our universe. We don't have anything concrete to accept that over the natural explanation that we already have, but just categorically ruling out other possibilities doesn't seem warranted to me. Does that make sense?
I'm not forcing your hand here. We can explore both avenues. There are only two avenues, right? Either it's natural or it's supernatural. I'm assuming. Well, it's not natural or supernatural. It'd be natural or not natural, right? That was the true dichotomy you set up a second ago. Let's make sure we stick with that. The true dichotomy, natural or not natural. And what I'm saying is that the supernatural is not natural, and it's above super means above. It's above the natural, meaning that the uncaused first cause, the necessary being, is necessarily not natural, and it is the source of the natural. Therefore, we say it's above the natural. You could also say it's beneath or more fundamental than the natural. It doesn't really matter. What the point is, it's logically prior to the natural, not temporally prior. It's logically prior to the natural, and that's so we can go down this route.
I feel like this is such a pointless discussion. What you're basically saying is that there is a necessary being, an originator from which everything originates. So everything is a product of that. The entire discussion about natural or unnatural can be reduced to that, and it's completely pointless. So if you want to go ahead with that, please go ahead.
Yeah.
What I don't understand, what's pointless about trying to determine, because either there's a first cause or not, and either it's natural or not. And with these two reduction to absurdity proofs, we can know that there is one and only one supernatural, or as you would say, not natural. That's fine by me, not natural first cause, and that's what everyone calls God. So if you
don't you think that by granting a necessary being as you want to define it, we have already solved that problem long ago? Why are we still going through this?
Yeah, and you can just take us to your particular version of God that this proves, because I've had this exact same discussion with Muslim apologists, with Hindu apologists, Jewish apologists. So well, I mean, you say that, but they would disagree with you. So they would be hardcore against whatever God you're positing. I'm almost confident, which we don't know yet because we haven't gotten there.
Everyone who believes in the uncaused first cause agrees 100% that we worship the one and the same God. All of us agree.
Really? Every single one of you agree on that? When did you guys communicate? That's a fascinating group chat, I have to admit. But look, again, I think David, hang on, David. I think what AP and I are trying to do, what we're trying to say with this argument is that, okay, I guess we could argue forever on what that, go back and forth on, is there a necessary being, first cause, uncaused, yada, hoda, wada, wada, blah. We could, but for us, it seems more interesting to actually try to get to the God. And so far we don't have any reason to go from, okay, there was a first cause to that first cause is God. Give us that connecting piece there that we're missing. I mean, I don't want to burn in hell forever. I absolutely don't. I'm sure AP doesn't either. Please help us so that we don't suffer that fate at the hand of your God. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate your humility there. You're not far from the kingdom, as Jesus said.
Oh, so, good. Thanks.
Unless you were just being sarcastic when you said you don't want to go to hell.
I'm pretty sure you're serious.
You don't want to go there.
Yeah, go ahead. So why God?
So you want me to talk? You want me to talk about why the uncaused first cause? The uncaused first cause is God. You want me to talk about that?
Go ahead.
I know that it's God.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, have you heard of the principle of proportionate causality?
No.
Never heard
Explain it to us.
You've never heard of it?
Give us a talk to me like I'm 5 moment, and talk to us like we're 5 and explain it to us and show us how that.
You know what I find so tiring about these conversations, David? It looks like it always goes by a specific script that wants to, spend so much time on so many abstract things instead of just making the point.
It's not
abstract. I feel like both Secular Rarity and Apostate Prophet, as we are known. I think both of us, we just want to sit here and listen to the argument. Why do you believe that this necessary being is God? Instead of going through a very long script of, do you know this, do you know that, and what is this and what is that? Just tell us why is God.
There are very few principles, there are very few axiomatic principles of the natural sciences. Do you boys like natural science?
Sure. Honestly, whatever gets you to showing us the God quicker.
I hate it.
You boys like the natural sciences. You boys probably think science, trust the science, right? So natural sciences are built on axiomatic metaphysical principles, such as the principle of causality, the principle of proportionate causality, which says you can't give what you don't have. Every perfection that's in the effect is more perfectly in the cause. Okay. And there are other principles like the principle of sufficient reason. The reason I called today, I thought Matt would be there, Matt Dillahunty, because I phoned him in 2017 and we discussed the principle of sufficient reason. I thought it was time to give him a call back, but I didn't know he wasn't going to be there. But maybe that's why you're not as prepared for the philosophical principles.
Prepared?
Thematic principles that underlie the natural sciences. We can't do natural science without these.
It sounds like, David,
just a handful
David, to
of
me, it sounds like in the time that myself and AP were so generously giving to you to try and get us to understand your God, it sounds like you didn't give us anything, and instead
David,
you just said that we didn't know enough about philosophy, which I'll gladly admit. I'm no philosopher, man.
I'm a complete
I'm
idiot.
not. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
a complete idiot. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And I was really hoping
terms.
that your God would
I'll
be
put it in
able
simple
to. Okay, yes, please talk to me like I'm
I'll-
five.
I want to do one thing, David. Please, I want to do one thing. I want to give you 1 minute to explain to us why your necessary being is the one God that you believe in. If we
Okay.
don't have it in 1 minute, then we will have to end this conversation.
The uncaused first cause is the only necessary being, the one and only necessary being, and he is necessarily the source of every perfection that we see in the natural material world, right? If we see any beauty, any health, any justice, any goodness, any truth, it necessarily comes from that one and only one source. So it is the source of everything that you value: love, justice, beauty, goodness, truth, everything. So it cannot be any other way. You cannot grant me that there is one and only one uncaused first cause and say, oh, but justice doesn't come from that source, or health doesn't come from that source, or beauty doesn't come from that source, or unity doesn't come from that source. Everything, you're admitting that everything comes from that source. You're admitting it for the sake of argument. I'll grant you that, but you're admitting it for the sake of argument. So you have to see that every perfection that we have in this world is coming from that one source, and that's why we worship it as God.
All right, 1 minute is over. I will give my response to this very quickly. Everything that you have said within those 1 minute boils down to God is the necessary being because God is the source of everything, because he is perfect, because it can't be anything else, and you can't answer this question in any other way. Now, as said, I am a complete idiot probably in terms of whatever philosophical level you expect from me, but this is basically what I understand from those 1 minute. God is the necessary being because God is the perfect source of everything, because it can't be anything else. That, my friend, is complete nonsense. We're relying on the assumption that this God does exist and that he must be the source of everything, that he is the only God that may be perfect, and so on many different factors that render this whole argument that you are making completely unnecessary, because you would first have to go and show to us that this God, makes sense, that he is indeed the creator, and so on. So I think this is a complete waste of time. I'm sorry.
I gotta say, I think that that summary was basically it. What I heard you say, basically, David, was God is all the things, all the good stuff in the world. God's the necessary being. That's what I heard. I didn't hear the connection between us granting you that there's a necessary being and then why that thing is God, how we know that thing is God. Again, yeah. Maybe I do just need to read another a philosophical treatise out there. Maybe there's a book or a YouTube video I haven't come across yet. But yeah, I didn't hear much more than that.
Can I say one thing for 30 seconds, and then I'll sign off?
Okay.
Sure.
I grant.
We can use the natural light of reason without recourse to faith to prove, using a reduction to absurdity to prove that there is one and only one uncaused first cause, and a second reduction to absurdity test to prove with equal certainty that first cause is not natural. And boom, there you go. You've got your source of every perfection that we see in this world. They're not pure perfections in this world, but they are perfections, reflections of that true infinite perfection of God. And we can know with certainty by the light of natural reason without recourse to faith. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you boys today. And I hope
that
you
was
have a
very
good
nice.
Sunday.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
God bless. Bye.
You too. Bye.
I didn't. I wasn't convinced by that, man.
I mean, I said I'm an idiot, so
Yeah, I mean,
I
and maybe that's our problem. Maybe we're just not intelligent enough. If only Yahweh or Allah or Brahman would have made us smarter. You know, gosh, we could
Well,
have.
he basically came in and said that the reason we're not understanding this is because we're not prepared and we don't really know our
Mhm.
stuff. And I mean,
Right.
I understand. I mean, I'm an idiot, and that's
Right.
just how I will roll today. So,
That's okay. That's all right. You know, we've all got stuff we need to work on, right?
all right.
Oh.
I believe you want to go ahead with some announcements or something, right? Or,
Yeah. Do you have them up, or do you want me to go
oh,
through a
I
couple?
thought that's
Yeah,
how you were doing.
I
thought
got
it was
them.
your
Don't worry.
responsibility.
Because if you're out there and you like what we do and you want to support us, help AP and I get a little bit smarter, y'all. There are a lot of different ways that you can support the Atheist Experience and the ACA. You can become a member of the channel for as little as 99 cents a month. Just click the join button below the video. This will give you access to special chat emojis. You can use all kinds of people's faces. I think Dave's down there and Shannon and Matt. Awesome. From there, you can hang out at some of the awesome other shows that we've got. The Atheist Experience is just one of the many shows that is put on by the ACA. You can make sure to check out all those others, like Secular Sexuality on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. Truth Wanted is on Fridays at 7 p.m. And then we have our Sunday shows. So earlier today at 1 p.m. Central, Talk Heathen was on. And then in between Talk Heathen and this great show, the flagship show of the ACA, that's the Non-Prophets, airs at 3 p.m. Central. And then finally, you can support us on Patreon at tiny.cc/PatreonAXP. So nice and simple. We make it easy for you. And again, help AP and I learn some stuff. You know, it's okay. We'll do better this next call, don't you think?
We just don't know better, but we'll try.
What are you thinking?
Do you want to grab somebody, or let's go ahead? I'll just go.
Yeah.
Kevin from Utah says, how do you deal with the death of a family member when the rest of the family are believers? Hello, Kevin. How are you doing?
Hey, guys. Thanks very much for taking the call today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.
So just a little bit of backstory to kind of give some context. I'm an atheist in Utah. Give you guys exactly one guess to figure out what my former beliefs were. But so no longer involved in any of that. And not very long ago, had a very sudden and unexpected death on my wife's side of the family. And they're all aware that I'm an atheist, and they are, for the most part, very respectful of that. There's sometimes a little bit of awkwardness when certain things like, you know, oh, I'll pray for you comes up, or mostly on their end, because that kind of thing doesn't bother me. But when this came up and, you know, father died unexpectedly, it's started to put me in a bit of an odd and unique situation in that, you know, when they're, I guess, looking for that degree of comfort as any of us would, it almost instinctually goes to that, well, you know, it's okay because, you know, we'll be together again, like we'll see him again in the afterlife. And I don't believe in that. And I think they know that about me. And it gets to this very strange point where I want to be comforting, and I don't want to, you know, shoot that thought process down from the sky and just say, well, that's not true or anything like that, or we have no reason to believe that. But at the same time, I don't want to be dishonest, especially when they know my stances. And this hasn't really become a huge issue yet, but with it being Father's Day, it was just on my mind. And I just wanted to know if, you know, as former believers, if you had any relative experience with that, if you could give me any sort of a footing to begin on, if that all makes sense.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, so I can say one instance that I've had, and there are some really good resources that are out there, for sure. There's a lot of different non-religious, secular-based therapy and things, the Secular Therapy Project, as well as Recovering from Religion. I'm a huge supporter of those organizations, and there's a bunch others too. But we do lack in the secular community more of this type of stuff, kind of how to deal with grief, and especially when there is that barrier of belief and non-belief between two people that are experiencing these terrible moments or just bad feelings, right? A year ago, a friend of mine that has been involved in Narcotics Anonymous for a very long time, he was successfully able to use the program and got help and is doing just a whole hell of a lot better. And that's true for a lot of people that have used those types of programs. There are still aspects, in my opinion, that I think are harmful for those. And one day he called me up and he told me that one of the people that he was sponsoring had relapsed, and they had died because of that. And, you know, he already knew where I stood with AA and NA and those types of things. And I said, man, I think therapy's better. I really think you need to approach this in a more medical sense, go to the doctors, go to the experts. With all that being said, in that moment, that wasn't the time for me to really harp on anything. And honestly, that was what I told him. I just straight up said, Kevin, I said, hey man, you know that I'm not the biggest supporter of these programs, but right now isn't the time to check off all the bullet points as to why this is, something I disagree with, right? Right now is the time to just sit there with you and talk to you about, this person that you knew and that you were helping, to just sit there and share stories, or, just honestly sit there, right? Sometimes it's just really, really freaking nice to have another person just come over and not say anything and just sit there. And if you cry, you cry. And if you laugh, you laugh. And if you're just fucking quiet, staring off at the wall, in those instances, that's one of the things that I really, really love about secular communities and secular therapy and stuff, is because we don't have to shoehorn it into a specific meaning. We don't have to try and backflip 40 times to try and figure out, why it was that this 4-year-old was taken. We don't have to do that, because we know that there isn't some magical wizard out there that's guiding us and he has some plan or something. It's not like that. Terrible things fucking happen. And sometimes the best that we can offer is just an ear, I mean, AP.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead.
No, and I agree with that wholeheartedly, and that makes a ton of sense. And I guess I get, because when this thing has come up, in the past, I agree with you 100%, and I try to avoid that whole part of it, that whole aspect of like, okay, an afterlife, and is there some greater purpose? Because I don't think there's any good. There's no point in a debate at that moment. Like you said, that it's not the time or the place. It's just the time to be there for each other. I guess what I'm more concerned about is when that topic comes up, and it's almost like one of those things where it's kind of like the glances come over to me, and it's almost like well, you don't think this is actually the case. And if it were to come to the point that someone were to ask me if I think we're going to see him again, I don't want to lie, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think that there's any good in me saying, no, I don't believe that. And I think the only thing that I've even said regarding it up to this point is, well, just because it's something that I don't believe doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right. And I think that's true, but I don't know. I kind of feel like that was me maybe skirting around the topic in a way, and I just don't. But that's the best thing I've come up with thus far, and I don't know. Maybe that's just the answer I need to stick with. But
you have the right, Kevin. You have the right, because you're a person, and because all the other people around you have this right too, which is, if somebody wants your thoughts on something, and you're actually not interested in giving them your thoughts, you just don't have to. And you can just say, and it's tough sometimes. Don't get me wrong. When somebody keeps pestering you and they're like, no, come on, tell me, come on. But sometimes, the right thing is just to say, hey, this isn't a topic I personally want to talk about. If you're comfortable and you say, hey, y'all keep chatting away, hash it out, whatever. But me personally, this just isn't something that I want to discuss right now. Sometimes that means that you have to leave a situation, and that's kind of a bummer. But it's better than that outcome is going to be better than you saying, let's just say you go, well, I don't really think heaven and hell is real. And the next thing you know, it's a shouting match and everybody's mad at each other. And in a time when
Right.
we should be focusing on the grief and trying to actually work through that trauma. It's not easy for sure, especially when somebody is kind of hammering it at you like they're the one that's grieving, and then they're just, shouting at you repeatedly about God and God and God and God. And it's like, okay, well, if that's comforting, that's okay. I can, in that instance, I can let that slide. I'm not gonna start bringing out all the ontological and axiomatics, and I'm not gonna do any of that shit.
Yeah, if I may just add my thoughts to that, I think everything that has been said, I very much agree with it. It's kind of a similar situation when a religious person says, I will pray for you, or God bless you. I could turn around and say, shut up, or I could say, hey, that doesn't make sense, I don't believe in it, or I could just say, oh, thank you, I appreciate that. It doesn't matter if I believe in that or not. What matters is that the person says something that is supposed to be kind or nice or comforting, and I just appreciate it and go on with it. I don't have to believe in it. And in terms, when it comes to the death of somebody, which is of course not comparable, it's a much harder thing to deal with. I also lost a very loved person in the past, and I mean, you don't have to be. I don't have to be an asshole to people just because I don't believe in whatever makes them feel comfortable. If they feel comfortable believing that they will see this person again in some other life or in the afterlife, that's okay. It's like you do whatever you feel comfortable with. Don't impose it on me. Don't expect it of me. If you so badly want my opinion, if you want to push me to give my opinion on that, I guess I could say, hey, you should do whatever you think is right. You should do whatever makes you feel comfortable. I have different thoughts, and those are not relevant right now. We can talk about that some other time. I guess it might be smart to be just socially aware and to act according to the room and the situation.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I think.
Well, yeah, hey guys.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please. I was just kind of wrapping up. Yeah.
That, as was I. I was just going to say that I really appreciate the words and the advice. It means a lot, and I know you have other callers to get to, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I do appreciate what you guys do, and I think you have a crazy amount of patience with some of the calls that you take. I don't know where that comes from, but good on you. And just to everybody listening, I really would love it if more believing Mormons would call into the show, because just from my own personal experience, those are always the most entertaining calls to me. So that's all I was going to say. And thank you guys very much for the time.
Thank you, Kevin.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah. So you heard it, Mormons. If you're out there, we do not have enough Mormon calls. So get on that. But before you do that, did you know that we have a channel that houses all of the shows of the ACA in audio podcast form? It's simple. Just visit tiny.cc/AEN podcast, and you can listen to all the latest shows from the Atheist Experience, Talk Heathen, Truth Wanted, Secular Sexuality, the Non-Prophets, and others in one great and convenient channel. Plus, there are 3 Facebook groups that are run by fans for fans, and you can interact with them. The first is the Atheist Experience fan group at tiny.cc/FBAXP. Then there's the Atheist Experience private fan group where you can do all the fun interacting, but without it clogging up your public feed at tiny.cc/FBAXPPR. And there's a new group, a place where you can go and try out some cool arguments on theists and atheists, the Atheist Experience fan group, Atheist versus Theist Debates. It is tiny.cc/AXP fan debates. We make it easy for you guys. You know, you have no excuses at this point. AP, do you want to talk about an uncaused first cause again?
Oh my God.
Are you ready for this? I don't know what caused this.
If you so badly want to.
I just want to talk to Ben in Alaska, he, him pronouns, because you're in Alaska, and that is so cool to me. That being said, I would like some of your kind of cool air to cool us off here in Tennessee. It's been disgusting hot. But hey, Ben, you're on with Secular Rarity and Apostate Prophet. What do you want to talk about?
I'd like to talk about the Holy Spirit, which is kind of the uncaused first cause.
Okay.
Right?
So what about it?
So it's basically, I've spent a long time trying to figure this stuff out. And because you kind of naturally get a sense that there's something wrong in the world today. I mean, could you look around and say that we're anywhere close to a utopia?
Well, no, I wouldn't say we're close to a utopia, but I also wouldn't say that a utopia is something that like could actually happen.
Exactly. All right, you claim ignorance on what a utopia would look like. That's fine, but you think that we're
No, I didn't claim ignorance. No, hang on.
There's something.
Hang on just a second, Ben. Just hang on, okay? We don't need to yell at each other. Trust me, AP and I are going to give you more than enough time to talk, okay? But no, I didn't say I was ignorant on what a utopia would look like. I'm just saying I don't even think that's something that can exist. I don't think the concept of all of the universe living in some perfect harmonious state is even a possibility, really. I just, that doesn't make sense to me on its face.
It's entirely relative. The perfection in the sense of a utopia is relative. A utopia is relative. You can't, it's a fantasy.
But with that being said, Ben, I mean, still, please, you go forward.
Okay, words don't really mean anything because, all right, so let's go back to, there's obviously, I think that it's not turning out the way things are supposed to be. If you look at any religion text, right, or any philosophical thing about how human nature and blah, 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 there's something fundamentally wrong with the way human beings are treating each other.
Is that a question?
Yeah, I'm a bit lost.
It's a statement. Agree with that, or do you not agree with that?
Oh, okay, here's the thing. David. No, Ben. Sorry. I don't think. I mean, you're saying that there is something wrong. It depends on what you mean by wrong. Wrong completely. Again, it depends on what culture and what perspective you're looking at it from. I just don't think that things are supposed to be perfect. So, go ahead.
No, I don't think that human beings are supposed to rip babies from the womb either, but hey, who am I to judge?
Okay, go ahead. I think you have our perspective already, so go ahead.
Okay, so it's basically Gnosticism, right? Gnosis. Is anybody familiar with the Council of Nicaea and what happened in 1333?
I don't know if you were paying attention earlier, but AP and I are kind of idiots. But I don't know what the Council of Nicaea or I don't know what this has to do with what we were initially talking about. I'm not super positive where we're going in the call at the moment, and it could be because you jump in a little quick before we finish our thoughts. But Ben, what?
Because you're just claiming ignorance again. You're just claiming that you and the AP don't know anything about anything.
Can you please go ahead and
Yeah.
tell
Can
us
you
what's
just-
going
Can you
on?
make a statement of fact? Can you make one statement of fact that you know to be true?
Yeah, probably, man. But again, when
let's do
AP and I were saying we were idiots, we were being silly and playful because this is a live call-in show and we want to entertain people. And you're not stopping to speak, okay? AP and I we're glad to listen. We're happy to do it, but we want you to actually just get to the point, right?
Ben, grass is usually green. I
Mhm.
hope you're happy with that. So
That is,
let's-
I would
let's
agree
go
with
ahead.
that. We know one thing at least.
Let's go ahead. Come on, please.
Yeah, you're back on, Ben. What you got? What is the thrust of why you called us today? What do you want to tell us?
Well, it's going to be difficult to just put it all out in one simple thing, but so
Try.
the Holy Spirit, God, Einstein. I mean, okay, you probably don't know anything about Einstein, other than E equals MC squared, correct?
I don't know, man. Whatever gets you to get us
Yeah.
to the end of the argument.
I mean, it's not an argument. I'd like to have a debate, but if somebody who claims that they don't know anything about anything, it's difficult to debate with them.
Oh my God! I
So
think we have
anyway,
made it
Einstein-
clear that was just a joke. Let's please go ahead with your argument. Come on.
Well, I just want you to make one statement of fact. Okay, yeah, the grass is green. So
Grass is mostly green. Yeah, go ahead.
Einstein won his Nobel Prize in science for the photoelectric effect of light, or the ionization of matter. Basically, how the microwave oven works. There's a very specific frequency that can agitate a certain compound, right? And each compound is frequency specific. It doesn't have to do with capacity or energy delivered, It has to do with how electricity and matter are related, right? And this is simply stated, electricity minus magnetism is dielectric. What Einstein did was he changed electricity to energy, removed magnetism, and added the square of light to the dielectric and changed that to matter, right? And now he gets to be worshipped as a god, whereas he actually discovered the God equation. This is a direct relationship between electricity and matter, and all that we perceive is the magnetic field. That's 100% of our sight and our sound, and all that we can perceive is 1/1,000,000th of the electromagnetic frequency. And nobody seems to marvel at the fact that it doesn't matter how much information we can dump into the ether, it will never crash and melt. Sky
So-
will never
And
fall.
what does this have to do with the Holy Spirit?
Yeah, Ben, I think we're both confused as to what this has to do with the first cause or a Holy Spirit.
Where's the
or-
Holy Spirit in
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me explain that this is essentially the mind of God that you're toying with, that we're using right now to communicate, right? This is information. You can dump countless amounts of information. You can line up radio towers and freaking cell antennas and whatever, right? And it's never going. It's always the
Are
technology.
you saying
So the point is-
electromagnetism is the mind of God? Are you saying electromagnetism is the mind of God?
It's only the small, yeah, in a way, but I'm saying the full sum total of it, right? And so again, we have a spiritual nature that is completely electromagnetic. I mean, how is Jesus going to be able to explain electromagnetism to somebody 2,000 years ago? He can only
That was
say
a
never
very
stop
huge
marveling at
claim.
the light.
Yeah.
That was a
I-
very
Right?
huge claim.
And so
Yeah.
now listen,
And hang on a
the
second.
beginning- in the
Hang on.
beginning-
Because
I wanted
we're just totally in left field somewhere, just not at all paying attention to the ball game anymore, it seems to me. If you want to say that the entire sum total of electromagnetism in the world is God, and you want to say that Jesus or Muhammad, maybe, I don't know, like these prophets were trying to explain to people about electromagnetism, I find that to be most likely not true, but I'd be more than happy to read some information on that. But I don't feel like we've been focused enough on this call to go much
I think
further. Yeah.
considering that this goes into all kinds of complicated places, and that we are both idiots. Both of these factors taken into consideration. I think it would be best, Ben, if you, I don't know, did you write research papers about this? Did you present this to your peers? Are you an expert in the field? Was this peer reviewed? Did you get somewhere with this? I mean, I wish you good luck with all of that. I just don't think that this call is the right place.
I could tell you that it's been a lifetime of work and deconstructing what has been constructed around us, which is human constructs. And you can't get to absolute truth through human constructs. You have to look at the natural world. And so in the beginning, there was nothing but electrical potential. It was a halo surrounding all of existence.
I don't know that that's
all that
entirely
was required, and all that will.
Do we have a religious scripture which says that too? By the way.
This is the Holy Spirit, the creator of all the human spirits, because everything is electrical in nature. And I just told you the relationship between electricity and matter. Since we are all inside of everything, we are inside of all of creation. It's a nested, fractal, harmonic iteration of itself.
Ben,
in the beginning, there was electricity.
On down, on. Yeah, and electricity is and this is why they don't want you to talk about electricity. They want you to talk about gravity only, right? Because Einstein
I don't know who doesn't want us to talk about electricity, but yeah, I talk about electricity all the time to people. But maybe there are some electricity people out there. That being said, Ben, we are going to let you go because once again, I don't think we've got enough here to actually try and make much more progress. My suggestion, Ben, would be Atheist Experience fan debates. That is a place you can go and hang out and maybe type it all out and have some people. Yeah, that place. Go there and see what some other people think of it. But before we do anything else, there are a lot of wonderful shows, not just the Atheist Experience, but some other great ACA shows like Nonprofit, Secular Sexuality, Truth Wanted, and Talk Heathen. And if you didn't catch them last week, here's just a little bit of what you missed.
That surviving on a single income in 2022 is next to impossible.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like there's just no way.
I mean, I think monogamy might be on the way out if inflation continues the way that it is.
Atheists probably get along most easily with pagans, I assume. Is that right?
Yeah, probably the people that have the rocks. Those people, I wouldn't be friends with those people. The rock people,
like the people who are like spiritualists.
The spiritual rocks, yeah, and the tarot cards and stuff.
And you know what? Greg Locke's institution is not there. It is not part of the institutions with 501c3. So he's renouncing nothing. He's just lying. A pastor lying! Shocking!
Like we've established on this show, reading, thinking, we're working on it. We're getting there. Okay.
We're getting there, Jay.
We're getting
one
there.
lesson at a time.
We're
going to go over vowels today.
Yeah.
After this, it's going to be a big day for you, bud.
It says that you can give atheists a way to pursue truth. Do you think that's something you could talk about? Because I know Dave likes truth. I've had truth just once or twice at a fancy restaurant, so I'm hoping to find some again. And we are back, but before we move on and take another call, the ACA has asked us to relay the following message to everyone. Recently, we took a call from someone who, in the past, doxed and threatened ACA show hosts online. This was a mistake, and we apologize. But words are cheap, and we are also taking action. We reached out to the affected members of our community, and with their guidance, took steps to prevent this from happening again. So that there is no mistake, we will always support human dignity and rights through our words and through our actions. This is an ongoing process to which we are committed. Working together, we can and will do better. You can read the full statement if you like by visiting www.atheist-community.org, and you can reach us at tv@atheist-community.org. So, with that being said,
hold on. We need to address something very important, the elephant in the room here, which is that we have just been told that they don't want us to talk about this electricity, and I'm really scared right now. Like, will they come after this? show? Will they come after us for talking about this?
I think it depends on the general voltage or amperage going on in your immediate vicinity. I think if you're above like 3 amps, I think they might come for you. But I'm not sure that it could have changed over the years. Honestly, are they still in power? Is it still they, or is it them now? It's the Shadow Cabal they were in charge up until the 90s, right? But now we're on a different organization, right? Am I wrong?
It all sounds very confusing. I'm no longer worried. Let's just move on.
Well, we have another Kevin here, he, him in Georgia, and it sounds like you want to challenge the support of the transgender community. Is that about right, Kevin?
I wouldn't say that's exactly accurate. More of the assessment of why you guys think it's okay. But before we even get into it, I do just want to say that I wouldn't call you guys if I wasn't open to being corrected. So other than just stating how I feel about this or the question that I'm going to present, I am open to new information that I probably don't know, which is a big reason why I called you guys. So I just want to put that out there. My question to you is, what's the difference between somebody saying that I know God talks to me at night in prayer and me waking up tomorrow saying I feel like a girl? So I want to be addressed as one, and I am as such.
Well, a lot of different things. It kind of depends on where you're going. But like, for instance, like you've seen people before, right, Kevin? Like you've seen people just like humans.
Sure.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. I know people that go by Susan. I know people that use they, them pronouns. I know people that are black. I know people that are atheists. I know all kinds of people, right? And with that being said, like we don't have that demonstration for God. Like, so that's just a really, really basic thing, right? Also, generally speaking, I guess I don't know every single trans person in the world, but generally it's not just I woke up today on a Tuesday and now I want people to use different pronouns, or I ask that people, be respectful to me and use this name, and that it's not just some snap of the fingers thing. I mean, I'm a cis white guy, so I don't have that personal experience. But with that being said, like, I know a lot of people out there. There are a lot of really, really cool people who have put themselves on the line and really put themselves out there to have their entire life opened up to the average, jackass on Twitter. And it just seems to be the case that it's just not this kind of snap decision thing. And then again, just going back to what are the differences between those claims is like, well, we know people are real. We know people are real, and we understand that sexuality and gender and sex in a biological sense, we know that these things are, it's a distribution. It's not just a binary. We know that, like we have good evidence of that. So
I follow that 100%. I guess to rephrase is, how would you know that what I'm telling you or what anybody says is the actual truth, other than that's what I would want to be, or that's what I fantasize being? How
I guess in that instance, when somebody, hang on just a second. I think you kind of broke up, but I think I kind of understand where you're going, Kevin. For me, in the instance where somebody says, hey, I'm a guy. I know I presented for a while as female. I know it may say that on my birth certificate. I'm actually a guy. I guess I just don't understand what the issue is. Like, why would I question that further? Like, AP comes up to me and he says, hey, this is my name. And I go, yeah, great. And I just, respectfully choose to use the name, and just not be a jerk to him. Right. Like, I guess I could, constantly misgender people, or I could go out of my way to, protest bathrooms and things. But I don't see what really is on the line other than a human being treated with dignity, right? When it comes to the God claim, if the person saying that God is real is actually correct, like that does have a lot of ramifications, generally speaking, right? At the very least, I'm very wrong about that, right? I've chosen the wrong side apparently, and I will join Satan and his minions when fighting Jesus's second coming. That should happen any day now. But yeah, when it comes to somebody, if somebody walks up to me on the street and says, "Hey, these are my pronouns, this is my name, this is my gender," all of that stuff to me, I guess I just don't understand what's wrong with just going, yeah.
Well, I'm with you there, and I just want to clarify in totality. I don't. If someone wants to be a little boy or a girl or a grown man or woman, I do not really particularly care. I'm not homophobic. I'm not transphobic. My gripe is, I'm not going to say specifically is with this show or atheist, but I feel like it comes down to, okay, we're willing to let that slide. Although I feel like if I was on this same show 20 years ago saying that this is what I am, nobody would ask me to demonstrate anything. I feel like it's accepted as it is just because it may not be, obviously it's like you said, what weight does that hold as far as saying a God exists? I agree with you there. My thing is that if we're talking about evidence and truth, why should the weight of the claim matter? What difference does it make? If we're going to just bypass one thing and then magnify glass another, how concerned with truth are we really? That's it's not with them. It's
Sure. Hang on,
We
Kevin.
don't care about that. That's all.
Yeah, hang on, Kevin. I think I'm, following where you're going. I could be wrong, and believe me, I could have already said some things that were totally wrong, and there could be people out there in the chat now or comments later that are just ripping me apart. I don't know. With that being said, I don't think my standard of evidence changes at all. Maybe for other people, I don't know everybody, right? But when it comes to me, I have the same standard always. And what I mean by that is, like, we have seen a lot of different evidence out there, that somebody that says, "Hey, I'm trans." Well, at the very least, we've seen this thing where, like, if you don't respect that and you're like mean and shitty to that person for no other reason than the fact that they're trans, like, we've seen what the ramifications are, and they're fucking atrocious. And I don't want that. I don't want people being beaten in the streets or jailed for the rest of their lives because they're transgender. That is just not a world that I want to live in. I don't know we'll ever get to a utopia, right? But I think we can definitely cut down on the fucking violence against a lot of different marginalized groups, right? And when it comes to if somebody walks up to me and says, "I'm black," and I look at them and they look light-skinned to me, well, that doesn't fucking mean anything, right? Like, it just doesn't, like, the way that I perceive the color of their skin doesn't have anything to do with their sense of self, their identity, right? They're separate things. And again, if somebody comes up to me and says, "These are my pronouns, this is my name, here's information about me," I don't know what other evidence really is necessary in that instance. Like, I see you as a person, you're standing here, we're talking, we're shaking hands or hugging or playing soccer. I don't know, whatever the hell we're doing. But the point is, like, we don't have any of that for the deity claim. We don't have any of that for the deity claim. Any day, Kevin, put God in front of me and have God and I talk about pronouns, and I will suddenly start to accept the claim that God is real, right? But we've never had that. We've never had that.
I want to add just one thing. I don't want to. I don't think I'm in a big position to talk about any of this. I don't think I'm greatly equipped. But from what I have, from what I know, from what I have experienced, from personal experience, I know that that people who are trans don't just wake up one morning and say, you know what, I think I'm a girl. So it's usually a very long internal state and a sense of identification, and you could then recognize that you could deal with a person who has for many years, or since they remember existing, they have been thinking that they belong to a different gender, or that they are actually a different gender, and whatever it is, you could be accepting of that. You could say, okay, this is an internal state, this is your identification, that's okay with me. I don't know why it shouldn't be okay with me. That, however, is not comparable to God, which we say must objectively exist, and for which there must be evidence. You would require evidence for that. I don't think that is comparable to an internal state or personal identification.
Yeah, and I would say, for me, real quick, Kevin, just to say, like, the only understanding that I have of this was when I finally heard the word polyamorous for the first time. My whole life, I had talked with people, I had engaged in relationships, I had felt things and thought things and experienced things my whole fucking life. And one day somebody said, hey, do you know about this term? And I went, oh my gosh, I don't know. What is that? And next thing I know, as I'm sitting there reading off a list of bullet points that says, hey, if you kind of feel this way, you might want to think, about looking into polyamory some more. And funny enough, it clicked for me, and that made sense to me. And so in that sense, I understand that, yeah, somebody for 5, 10, 15, 25, 40 years has had this internal state, like AP was just talking about. And for me, I there's the evidence, right? There it is. It's right there. And so I don't need to go much further personally. Yeah, please go ahead.
And I'm definitely I see where you're coming from, and I'm not going to take up a bunch more of your time. Just two more things. I wanted to say one thing and ask one more question. I feel like people call and they have anecdotal evidence for God, and I agree. Anecdotal evidence doesn't really come to an absolute answer. I feel like there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that these people are telling the truth, that they really mean what they say, and that there's even a scientific explanation for it. But my issue is, once again, it's not with them at all. And I don't want them to be treated any differently. They can, do whatever it is that they do like every other human being. I don't have a problem with it. I feel like we're at a state right now, at least I live in America, I'm not going to speak for the world, where things are becoming accepted without actually taking the process of being tested over time. And my thing is that I know God is a big, big deal. Like, if you said that if I put a Mentos in a Coke and it blows up, I really don't care. Like you said, just like you said, if somebody says they're light skinned and they're clearly black, like, dude, whatever, I got you. But my issue overall, and my last question is that at what point are you going to say that it's anecdotal as opposed to I'm willing to just take them at their word because it's not important to me? But what if it's important to someone else?
Well, so the idea of somebody being trans, or let's just take it even more broadly, because I think it's a better conversation when we just try to step back, because this exact type of argumentation has been used when it comes, years ago mostly, but there's still some places in the world today. But years ago, the argument of homosexuality was very similar. It was just like, well, how do we know these people are even being honest? Like, they're just debaucherous and whatever, yada, yada. I think we have lots of evidence that is not anecdotal, lots of evidence at this point to indicate that the idea of well, hang on, listen, that the idea of a simple man, woman, binary, that this idea of a black, white, that's it, like that really isn't the case with human beings, unlike anything, right? Like, we have lots of evidence throughout history of individuals that have all types of different chromosomal and just general makeup of anatomy. Like, we have lots and lots and lots of examples. In general, it seems to be the case. One side, that's where a lot of people seem to sit. But the idea that that's all there is not the case. It's literally always been the case. And we just have evidence, whether it's skeletons that were dug up in Europe, whether it's stories of individuals all throughout the continent of Africa, whether it's two-spirit, third-gendered individuals, indigenous peoples in North and South America. Like, we have all of these things. We have brain scans of people that show similarities and differences. We have hormone balances. I mean, we have quite a fuck ton, if I may say so. And I do believe that's the scientific term, a fuck ton of data to show that this is real. And again, like, are they telling the truth? I would say, and I may get in trouble for this, but I would say that trans people probably lie about the same as every other human being, which is like, yeah, like, we all lie about certain things. Are they lying about who they are? I guess I don't know that I could give you the best fucking concrete evidence, physical, whatever, but I'd say most fucking likely they're telling the truth.
And with that, I think we have come to the end of this discussion.
Yeah.
It's been very long.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully,
I think we have to move on.
Yeah, hopefully there was something there that helped a bit, Kevin. And again, please, anybody out there, if I fucked anything up, please feel free to reach out to me and help me understand, because I want to understand more and I want to do better. But yeah, I don't think the claims are comparable, and I think we've got a lot of different reasons as to why that's the case.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Kevin, and have a fantastic day.
Yeah.
Do you want to add something, or do we want to go move on to the
No, I think no. Okay, let me get through this real quick. We have a brand new merch store, everybody. Visit tiny.cc/merch ACA. You can get all your favorite items like t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, and there's some newer, cooler, hotter stuff like beanies, cell phone cases, tote bags. And every month there is a limited edition item that will disappear. So go check that out. Go check out our store and all the other stores of the other shows. And right below the chat, you'll notice there is a donate now box. Donations made there mean that the ACA will get 100% of those smackaroos. YouTube does not take a penny, which is really great. And then finally, we cannot do this show or anything else without the absolutely incredible crew that is always back there. Can we get them on screen? Look at those people, just always working hard. They are working much harder than me, which honestly, I'm really happy about. Like, I would rather them do the work. I'm
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What about,
I think we should take one that I think was very interesting.
Are you looking at Ahmad, you think, or what are you thinking?
No, I was thinking of somebody who asked about the abortion in Quran.
Oh yeah,
I think that's an interesting thing that we never address.
Let's take Timothy in California. He, him pronouns. Hey Timothy, you are on with Secular Rarity and Apostate Prophet.
Hello.
Hello. I hope I'm not stereotyping Apostate Prophet in his commentary on Islam, but I thought with him on today, this would be a good time to field this question.
He knows a little bit about Islam, but real quick, Timothy, are you on speakerphone by any chance? If so, just take us off real quick and smash that phone to your face.
Very, very hard to listen to.
Yeah, it's very hard.
Yeah, that's what I've been told, and I have a headset, and I can't control my settings anymore. Maybe I should just try another day.
Well, you could just take the headset off. You can just get off of the headset and just be on the phone if you want real quick, or we could just put you back in the queue for a second. Let's Timothy.
Better now? Oh, sorry.
Can you hear
Still
me
there?
Yeah. I think we can just quickly answer the question. Timothy, what you were wondering about is the Quran's position on abortion. Is that right? Okay, this is getting difficult. I think we should put you back.
We're gonna get Timothy back in the queue. Hopefully, we can get him here in a second. What about let's go figure out where
your choice.
Where religious people get their morality. Ahmad in Washington, he, him pronouns. How are you? And hopefully, we're not on speaker.
Yeah, you're on speaker. Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Hello.
Talk to us. What do you have for us?
Sure. So, okay, whenever I'm just going to go in a lot of topics, and then we can kind of see where we go from there, right? But it'll be pointing at one main topic. So, whenever I hear usually non-religious people speak, correct? Like a lot of them will say, and this can apply probably to Christianity or Islam or really any religion, right? To an extent. But when I hear them speak, right, what they'll usually be like is, let's say they'll find something very, what from a secular mindset would seem very like, oh, that's just crazy. Like, how could this happen, right? Like a virgin birth or something. Or, I mean, you can don't think of virgin birth, think of almost anything, right? You can think of like very crazy things that if you would not expect to see these things in like a day-to-day thing, but they are in biblical or let's say Quranic text, right? But the thing is, they try to like think like, I'm curious, do non-religious people understand that like religious people are seeing their morals from their mindset, right? And there's also a lot of what they call overlap. Like let's say you got the Christian morals versus Islam.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Can I interrupt you for a second? You're going very, very fast and jumping onto a lot of different things. Please slow down for the sake of all of us and our sanity. I would just ask you, so if you want to ask a question or make a comment on a specific thing, just to focus on that, take a breath, and then go ahead, please.
Okay. My question is this: do you, or either of you guys can answer, do you guys understand that when religious people are looking at their morals, they're looking at it only from their holy book and they're not looking at it from a secular point of view?
I mean, I wouldn't put that blanket statement on every single person, but I would say in general, people that have a holy book that talks about morality, that, yeah, they're generally kind of using that as a jumping off point. I do understand that.
Yeah, pretty much I would agree with the same. I mean, religious people, like anybody else, also take, lived experiences and their surroundings and all that into consideration. But I would say primarily, especially people who focus very much on religion and on their religiosity, take their morals from their religion and therefore justify things that we may not understand if we are not part of that religion.
Okay, makes sense. But let's say you're a non-religious person, right? Okay. I know this could get into a big debate, right? But let me just ask you, unless there is a law that specifically gives you objective morality, how would you get objective morality anyway?
Why do we need objective morality? Why is that required to be a good person?
I've talked to atheists on this, and some will have very different answers. Some will have a very idealistic answer. They may go in terms like something like what they call people need to be good because it's beneficial for society. But in all honesty, I'm more skeptical on that. I feel like atheism has some dogmas that are kind of, for example, I think atheism is not going to be something we should only sit on. Yeah, sure.
Hold up. So atheism can't have dogmas just because it's not some codified set of things to follow. It's just somebody walks up to you and goes, "Hey man, I think God's real." And you just go, "Oh, I don't think that." Like, that's really about it. Like anything else that comes to, how to behave with other people in the world around you is going to be under some other thing. A lot of non-religious people take secular humanism. Some people take something else. Some people take a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But again, like, I don't think we need an objective morality for sure. But funny enough, if morality comes from the mind of a god, any god, then that is like by definition not objective unless you're using a different term.
I would say it is very much a religious expectation, an expectation by a religious person that there should be some sense of objective morality in the world. It is very similar to believing that there is a greater meaning prescribed by a creator, and then expecting this, this prescribed objective universal meaning to be a thing for everybody, because that's just what you hold, when in reality there is no such thing. I'm saying in reality from a non-religious perspective. A non-religious person may not believe that there is a universal objective prescribed meaning to everything that happens around us, and would think that such an expectation is merely your expectation. It's not really reality, not really how things are supposed to be. When it comes to morality, you may consider it necessary that people abide by certain universal objective morals which were prescribed by a creator who created everything for a specific purpose. Whereas in my world, as a non-religious person, I don't think that such a thing is necessary. I think that morality is something which humans construct, which humans build in order to form functioning societies. It arises out of necessity in order to coexist within societies. Like if I popped into existence out of nothing, and I know nothing at all. If I popped into existence and all I feel is, okay, I'm hungry, I need to eat something, I need to drink water, and I live like that for a while, and I gather the means to feed myself and to drink water, and after a while I notice that other people also pop into existence around me, then a problem arises, which is that they have the same needs that I have. Now I can't just go around and grab whatever I want, because a conflict will arise, because they will also want to grab all those things for their own needs, and at some point we will have to share, or we will begin taking from each other forcibly in order to survive, while making sure that the other person does not take my stuff away. And in order to then make sense of that situation, in order to coexist, in order to survive and let the other person survive, because you don't want to kill each other, which ends in ending your own life, which is totally contradictory to that very first instinct that you have, you will then feel the need to establish rules, and those rules are morals. I think that's just as simple as it is.
Yeah. What do you think, Ahmad?
Also, I'm gonna give a comment and a kind of a follow-up question. With respect to atheism, no, I agree. It's like a not counting stance, right? It's not. I mean, that's all it is, right? There's no other thing with it, right? But the thing is, like, I'm thinking of more in a correlative type of sense. For example, you can get like atheists, like let's say Ayn Rand, Milton Friedman, John Stossel, who are like libertarians, or Stalin, Trotsky, who are Marxists. I mean, but overall, I would say more if you like look at atheists, a lot of them have more of idealistic, left-leaning thinking, to be honest with you, the way I've seen it. But now I have a follow-up for Apostate Prophet. So let's say, I mean, this is very theoretical, right? But let's say you die and your God is in front of you, right? And let's say it's the Islamic God, Allah, right? Would you, if that happens, right? Would you, I mean, then the morality, whatever you're thinking doesn't matter. Whatever morality was described in the Quran is the objective morality, right? So would you accept your punishment, or would you accept whatever God has for you, or would you deny it? Like, for example, in the Quran, it's like there's Abu Talib, Abu Jahl, who are arrogant. Even if they saw the truth, they would not accept it. But would you accept it if you actually saw at the end of the day this, and this was the judgment?
I certainly don't think that I saw the truth and rejected the truth. I know for a fact that I have been pursuing the truth forever. I know that I am convinced that Islam is not true, which is why I don't believe in Islam. I don't know that Islam is true, but then knowingly reject it. So if I suddenly died and I was, I stood in front of Allah or His court of angels or whatever it is, and I was then asked to explain myself, what I would say is very simple. You know very well my intentions and my journey. You know very well that I wasn't convinced. You know very well that I was looking for the truth. If this is the truth, and I somehow didn't find it and somehow didn't see it, then I guess I wasn't good enough. I guess I wasn't smart enough. I guess I was blind, and maybe, just maybe, having good intentions as I did is not enough. Maybe there's something wrong with me and my intellect, which then is not really up to me. It's very much your fault. So I don't really think it would be just for me to be eternally punished for that. I think that would be my answer.
Yeah. Yeah, and I say that's a good wrap up, and we got just a couple more calls and a little bit of time, so we're gonna let you go. Ahmad, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And
thank you.
Yeah, have a good one. Let's get Timothy back on. I think we've got all the issues figured out. Timothy, he, him in California, Quran and the abortion. I want to hear this. This is something I have never heard before. So, Timothy, you there?
I'm not stereotyping Apostate Prophet. Can you hear me?
You're doing great.
Yeah, much better. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I went off my headset and I called. So I hope I'm not stereotyping Apostate Prophet, because when I saw he was hosting today, I wanted to pose this question for some time, and I know he's familiar with Islam.
Yeah, please go ahead. That should be fine. Yeah.
So a Muslim friend once told me that we were discussing abortion. He's actually a Quranic scholar, real genius, software engineer and cognitive scientist. But he was talking about how in the Hadith, the Quran talks about how the breath of Allah is not breathed into the soul of the fetus until 120 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a little research and found out that there's no just one Islam. Of course, there are 4 schools of thought in terms of interpreting the Hadith. Some say no, some say maybe, some say 120 days. But it occurs to me that there must be a Muslim American woman who has maybe not had access to an abortion because of some state legislation that could then undertake a restriction of her First Amendment right to freedom of religion to go ahead and have access to an abortion in that state. And I just wonder why that argument hasn't ever been raised. The Christian Bible, as you know, doesn't have, it's crickets on abortion. And even the Torah mentions that the mother's life is more important than the fetus's because she already has a family to care for. So there's 2 of the 3 big holy books that have at least mentioned it, whereas the one that seems to be carrying the day in America, without calling it a religious constitutional abomination, that would be a good legal basis.
I think it's not really that simple. You're right. According to the Islamic reports, according to the Islamic traditions, it says that Allah gives life or the spirit to a fetus at about 4 months or so. At 4 months, the life is given. And then this person basically comes into existence. Because of that, Islamic scholars throughout history have said that a fetus is a human being after the 4 months, or has a soul after the 4 months. And based on that ruling, they said it should be absolutely impermissible to abort a fetus after that stage. The thing is, the ruling has also historically not been that before that abortion is completely fine. That is not really the history of things, especially according to some schools like the Maliki school. I believe it is still completely forbidden to have an abortion even before 4 months. As soon as the conception takes place, there is no such thing as abortion. It is completely impermissible. It is considered immoral, and so on. It is, as far as I understand it, as far as I have read up on this, Muslim scholars have in general ruled that abortion should not be done. It should only be done in cases of a life-threatening situation. And things like that. You can also not find a single source which actually talks about abortion, which actually says that it is okay, or in which Muhammad says that it is okay, or in which the Quran says that it is okay. The only suggestion from reports that you can find comes from Muhammad, where he says that you should not use protection or you should not pull out if you have intercourse, from which it is understood that you are not supposed to take control over whether a baby comes into existence or not. You should just do your thing and leave the rest to Allah. So and that is considered the most perfect moral example to follow. So no, I wouldn't agree that Islam actually has a proper foundation to support some abortion before
Let's not forget that in Burwell v. Hobby versus Hobby Lobby, the eminent Justice Samuel Alito actually deigned to use the term sincere religious belief which I was incredulous at for a Supreme Court justice to inject that kind of language into an assent, on a ruling that is in the basis of challenging Roe v. Wade. There's no Pope in Islam, but of course, the Pope is just Catholic. There's no Pope analog in Protestant faith. And so now all of a sudden that concept of sincere religious belief was put on point by the assenting justice of the Supreme Court. I just think it's maybe a topic that could be bandied about, mostly because at least it's discussed in the two holy books of Judaism and Islam, and there's not a peep about it in the Bible.
Well, I think
the
that
First Amendment is a dicey one, isn't it?
yeah, I think I didn't know anything that the Quran said really anything about abortion. There are some things in the Bible that are kind of in the same vein. There are aspects of God knowing you in the womb and blah blah blah. There are also some organizations like the Satanic Temple, I believe, that have bodily autonomy as a part of their sincerely held religious belief, and are arguing that should give their members rights to their body that might be taken away. So
I have to make one correction here before we go ahead with that, Timothy. There's just one thing that I want to correct. Hadith and Quran are separate things in Islam. So the Quran is the book. The Hadith are just reports about Muhammad. The Quran doesn't say a single thing about abortion ever.
Oh, it's the Hadith.
So yeah, the Quran never says anything about.
Okay, that's good.
I understand. I do understand that, and yet there are four main Sunni schools of thought. And I'm just reading off the Wikipedia here. I don't know the difference between Hanafi, the Shafi'i, the Hanabi, and the Maliki, right? But it's under discussion within the active practice of Islam. And so there we are we not? Again, we're back to if there's a religious basis for it, and we can talk about sincere religious belief in Burwell v. Hobby Lobby, then why not, Mrs. Whomever from Georgia versus the state of Georgia.
Yeah, I guess it would be a very interesting thing if it came up. I guess it's not something that I've ever really concerned myself with, but
and there are some.
There is a Muslim or a Jewish woman that hasn't approached this issue before and considered, like all women do, considered
it's actually very hard for Muslim women to approach this in general.
Yeah, and Timothy, because we're running out of time and we got some other things to do, but remember that there are some wonderful fan Facebook groups that you can go bounce that off of each other, and I think AP has like a channel or something. I mean, he's very new in the scene. I think hasn't been doing it for years and crushing it. But anyway, Timothy, thank you. Thank you so much, Timothy. We're gonna let you go. And we've got just a couple more. I think we can get through them real quick. AP, it looks like William in Florida has a little bit of a problem with us potentially finding God. William, him in Florida, what do you got for us? We don't have a lot of time, so we're going to try and be quick. What's up? What you want to talk about?
Hey, how's it going?
Great.
Good. So basically, this is like just like an old-fashioned, just proving God type of my ability, before I was listening, and Secularity Rarity said that, we don't have proof for God. I have proof that people exist, right? So I would like to know, what is 100% sure your proof that people exist?
Are you going to go into solipsism? Because we definitely don't have enough time for that. You realize that, right? Like, whether I'm the only person in existence or not, we definitely don't have time for a solipsistic argument right now, man. So, like, I don't.
Wait.
Let's keep going. We don't have 100% concrete proof that other people exist. Next thing.
You know that souls exist.
I do not believe that souls exist. Yeah, I do not accept that claim.
So then what is a person?
again,
A person is another individual human being who who
there's a
exists.
genetic component, there's an anatomy component, there's a lot of different components. I am sure you are not here asking what AP and my definition of a person is. I feel like
Well,
you have more of a thrust. So I would
You just said
appreciate.
souls aren't real.
I said
souls aren't real, and your definition for a person was a bunch of stuff that you have no idea really how to explain what a person is.
so.
I think it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna let William know. I put him on mute for a second because we are in overtime. We don't have a lot of time for just kind of just jaw jacking and screwing around, right? So if you would like to give us an argument or some evidence for God, we would love to hear that real quick. But if you're just going to essentially say that AP and I are idiots, it's not necessary because we already took care of that. So you are not muted anymore.
I want to say just one thing in response to that.
All
It's very simple what a person is. A person is another human being distinct from different animals. That is what a human is. And I can prove that. I know that exists. Whether you think that proof is not, real based on whether our perceptions are true or not is completely 100% irrelevant to me, because I can scientifically prove the existence of other human beings. Whereas a soul is not something that is proven to be real, nor would it be considered necessary for any human to exist. So that's all I can say about this.
All right. So your only way to prove that a person is actually like a living being is based on genetics or some sort of biological, some sort of other language besides a person being an identity. And it's set apart from the animals. I mean, how do you know that a human being is set apart from the animals? So basically,
So
can I get?
you want to give us evidence for God, William, or you don't?
Didn't I make it very clear that a person is another human being?
This is how I'm starting
it seemed clear to me,
I'm
AP.
starting it.
You're starting this way 1 minute after the show is over for the day. Come on, William. Like if you have something you want to give to us, we would love to hear it. But if you're just gonna come on and just make claims in the overtime, man, I said it before we took the call. I said we're at the end of the show. I'm unmuting you one last time, one more chance. AP and I would love some evidence or arguments for God. If you got one real quick, we'd love to hear it. If not, next week, you can call back. So what you got, William?
All right. Well, I honestly think that your guys' belief that people exist is based on your own soul knowledge that people have identities. And I think that the knowledge of the everlasting God is just as real, and I believe it's just as set apart for anybody who believes in the identity of God being set apart from the identity of man.
So do you have any evidence for any of this? Do you have anything that you can present to us now, or do you need 7 days to get it all laid out and then call back in? It just real quick, yes or no?
I think
I'm gonna say that's a no.
I want to ask you a question quickly. Since we how many people are here? Do you see here on the screen?
For up on YouTube right now, I have no idea.
No. I'm asking you.
You and me? 2, I think.
Can you prove it?
I mean, your shirt's a different color.
See, you can't because you're ignorant. So,
if only we had the Holy Spirit uncaused cause or whatever.
You're so ignorant. Okay.
I will try better. Daniel is our last caller. We have Daniel, he, him pronouns in Maryland. We are in a little bit of overtime, but I saw you were hanging on this whole time, and we wanted to just touch on this real quick. Daniel, what do you got for us today?
Yeah, thanks for taking me on. It'll be pretty quick because I mean, I don't think there's really, I guess, a whole lot to say, but I guess at least socially, I think we should really be starting to like seeing like religious indoctrination, I guess, more as like, okay, I'm really wording it really poorly, but
that's okay. Can I read to you what I've got in front of me? Because I think it's pretty succinct. It says, what's the line between religious indoctrination and child abuse? Is telling your kids they're going to hell psychological abuse? I think that's definitely a great thing that we can talk about. Does that feel like that's pretty good summary of what you're going for?
yeah. And
Cool.
just like a really tiny story, and it's gonna be like 5 sentences or something.
Yeah, 30 seconds to a minute.
So my dad was looking on like a thing on Canada. It's like, oh, Canada is like infringing on religious freedoms or whatever. And I clicked on it because I was like, well, what's the source say? And it was actually a law about like banning conversion camps. Yeah, and so I was just, I guess, saying like, I mean, this is not something I guess complete. I guess like, I think there should be like more laws protecting children against certain types of religious indoctrination effects.
Yeah, let me hop in on this because there is something called religious trauma. There is I believe the doctor who coined the term was Marlene Winnell. I could be wrong on that, so please somebody correct me and give the right information if I am wrong. But we do have very good data, even if we can't prove other people are real. We do have very good data that there definitely are some harmful things that can happen through religious teachings. When it comes to is it child abuse to tell a child that they're going to hell? Honestly, Daniel, I'm just not 100% positive where exactly that line needs to be cut. The good news is that there are a lot of people out there who have spent a really, really long time, and they do have good studies. They do have good data. It is peer reviewed. It is getting peer reviewed. They're working on new things. They're trying this. They're throwing that away because it didn't work. And we have gotten better with this type of stuff. And it's why I can undeniably say that conversion therapy is just torture. It is just abuse. Just sitting somebody down and trying to tell them that they aren't homosexual, or they just need more God and then they'll stop being trans. Like, that's just nonsense, disgusting, harmful behavior. Does you telling a child that there is a place called heaven for good people after they die and a bad place called hell for people when they die, is that alone child abuse? I don't know that I would say that. So. I would say if you wake your 5-year-old kid up, let's say at 2 a.m. every morning, and tell them repeatedly how horrible of a person that they are and that they will forever be burned in eternity, and show them gruesome, horrible images, like, yeah, that's probably abuse. But again, like, I don't know that I have a perfect way to cut this. But the religious trauma syndrome and other things like that, recovering from religion, something I mentioned earlier, those types of institutions are the places that I'm very glad exist, because we do kind of need to know, right, where that line is, or at least have a better understanding. And also, the United States, you should catch the fuck up, because Canada banned conversion therapy and we haven't yet. So yeah, why not get on that?
And with that said,
yeah, that's about it, Daniel.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Daniel, we appreciate you, and we appreciate all the wonderful callers. But before we go anywhere, AP, I just got to say, man, this was so much fun. I was really, really excited to be on today. I hope you had fun too. I hope we're a little bit less idiots now. I don't know if it's true though. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been better. I just felt like most of it, I just felt like a complete idiot. And
we know one thing. We know where the sun goes at night. We know that. If only we could figure out what the lamps are up in the heavens, I would.
And for everyone who doesn't know, one day there will be one day when the sun will not get permission from Allah to rise, and Allah will say, "Go back where you came from," and then the sun will rise from its setting place, meaning from the west.
But until that day happens, you can hang out and visit the website atheist-community.org for the latest on what's going on here and at the ACA and all the other wonderful good shows. And you can contact us at tv@atheist-community.org. It has been so much fun. Apostate Prophet, thank you so much. And we'll see y'all next time.
What will it take for you to start opening your eyes, to stop questioning the bullshit everyone around you buys? You think it's any of your business what goes on between my thighs? I wonder when we'll be rid of your lies.
It's time to get sexy. So watch Secular Sexuality live, Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTSS and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callsex.